Chinese spy ship enters contested waters shadowed by warships, gathering data. But this time, it's not alone. US and Philippine forces move in, intercept, and force it to back off. This is the South China Sea on edge. The encounter took place roughly 70 nautical miles off Palawan. A Chinese Type 815G electronic surveillance ship was detected sailing near key Philippine outposts, accompanied by at least 2 PLA Navy escorts. Responding swiftly, the Philippine Navy's BRP Jose Rizal and a US Navy destroyer intercepted the Chinese group. Both navies maintained radio contact and challenged the vessels to explain their presence within the Philippine EEZ. The Chinese Type 815G is designed to collect electronic signals, monitor naval communications, and track missile activity. These ships act as silent intelligence gatherers, often preceding larger fleet operations. Philippine officials declared the Chinese ship's presence unauthorized and provocative. With growing maritime patrol capabilities, Manila is now more willing and able to directly challenge Chinese encroachments. The US stands firmly behind its treaty ally, with forward-deployed assets, including warships, aircraft, and Marines rotating through Philippine bases. Washington is reinforcing its commitment to freedom of navigation. China's strategy is long-term. Constant presence, intelligence gathering, and salami-slicing tactics aimed at wearing down resistance and creating facts on the water. But now, it faces direct opposition from a growing alliance. A Philippine Coast Guard cutter intercepted a Chinese Navy spy ship within Manila's Western Exclusive Economic Zone over the weekend. BRP Teresa Magbanwana met the Type 815G electronic surveillance ship Tian Wangsing and the escorting China Coast Guard Zhaojun class 4203 around 70 nautical miles west of the Philippine archipelago on Saturday morning. The agency's flagship, which was conducting a maritime law enforcement patrol at the time, attempted to establish communication with the spy ship. While no response was given by the People's Liberation Navy Dongdiao class, the escorting cutter sent a counter-challenge and asserted China's jurisdiction over the disputed waters. A press statement from Commodore J. Tariela, Philippine Coast Guard, said Teresa Magbanwana took a, quote, proactive response in intercepting the Chinese spy ship. The PCG reminds the PLA Navy and the CCG to give due regard to the jurisdiction of the Philippines in its EEZ, answer the radio communications from the PCG, and desist from the conduct of unauthorized patrols or law enforcement-related activities in the Philippine EEZ, read the statement. The 052D class guided missile destroyer Gulin 164 started to escort the Chinese spy ship following the initial Philippine Coast Guard interdiction. Further radio challenges were left unheeded by the Chinese vessels, which were observed conducting flight operations with a Z-9 utility helicopter. The agency's release stated that Teresa Magbanwana was actively monitoring the Chinese formation. Tian Wangsing's appearance off Mandora comes amid the Cope Thunder aerial combat drills, with this year's edition debuting U.S. Air Force F-35As on Philippine soil for the first time. Chinese military spy ships and civilian research vessels have also been previously monitored near or within Philippine waters. In 2022, the Philippine Navy shadowed the Dongdiao-class Haiwangsing 792 for 3 days as it sailed within the archipelagical waters of the Sulu Sea. Manila claimed that Chinese civilian research vessels were conducting illegal surveys within its exclusive economic zone in May and dispatched the Philippine Coast Guard to monitor their activities. The Philippines dispatched its Coast Guard over the weekend to challenge a pair of Chinese warships in the Southeast Asian country. The neighbors are locked in a territorial dispute over China's expanding Coast Guard and naval presence inside Manila's exclusive economic zone, an area that extends 230 miles from the Philippine territorial sea. The U.S. ally alone is entitled to patrol in the zone under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, to which both the Philippines and China are signatories. An estimated 1/3 of the world's shipborne trade passes through the South China Sea each year. It is the subject of competing claims by several countries, including China. The vessel was detected about 80 miles off the coast of Cabra Island in the Philippine province of Occidental Mindoro. Video released by the Philippine Coast Guard captured a radio broadcast informing the Chinese ship that it was not authorized to operate in those waters and ordering it to leave. The Tianwangsing did not react, but its Chinese Coast Guard escort responded by asserting Beijing's claim to the area. As of 11 a.m. Saturday, the Chinese ships had been joined by a second People's Liberation Navy vessel, guided missile destroyer Gulin, which deployed its onboard helicopter in what Tariela said were landing exercises. The agency's release stated that Teresa Magbanwana was actively monitoring the Chinese formation. As Commodore J. Tariela, Philippine Coast Guard, said in a press statement, "The PCG reminds the PLA Navy and the CCG to give due regard to the jurisdiction of the Philippines in its EEZ, answer the radio communications from the PCG, and desist from the conduct of unauthorized patrols or law enforcement-related activities in the Philippine EEZ." The West Philippine Sea is Manila's term for those parts of the South China Sea that fall within its exclusive economic zone. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is expected to continue challenging the Chinese ships and publicizing their movements. Marcos vowed in 2024 not to cede, quote, 1 square inch of Philippine territory to any foreign power, end quote. This successful joint intercept may set a precedent. Expect more U.S.-Philippine patrols, tighter integration, and quicker responses to Chinese intrusions on sea and in the air. One misstep, an accidental collision, a missile lock, a warning shot, could spiral into an international crisis. Both sides are armed and watching. The rules of engagement are thin. The stakes are enormous. As China continues to test limits, the U.S. and Philippines are rewriting the playbook for naval deterrence. More presence, more resistance, and more coordination to push back against illegal claims. The South China Sea remains a flashpoint, but this time it's not one country standing alone. The interception marks a new chapter where alliances meet aggression with resolution. Should the U.S. and Philippines increase patrols in the South China Sea? Will China step back or double down? Share your thoughts in the comments, hit subscribe, and stay tuned for more military intelligence from the world's most contested waters.